The amber glow of top-shelf whiskey caught the light as I poured, the liquid catching like liquid gold in the crystal tumbler. 10 years at various bars had taught me to pour a perfect 2-finger measure without looking, to smile without meaning it, to deflect advances without causing offense. The Sterling Lounge demanded perfection, and I'd learned to deliver it while disappearing into the background, just another beautiful fixture among the leather booths and Edison bulbs. Wednesday nights were usually quiet. The after-work crowd had thinned, leaving only the regulars and the occasional businessman nursing expensive scotch while pretending his wife didn't know where he was. I preferred it this way, the calm before the weekend chaos, when I could move through my shift on autopilot and think about the algebra homework waiting on my kitchen table. Not mine. 16-year-old Ethan's, though I'd probably end up helping him finish it after my shift ended at 2 a.m. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Another round for table 7. Marcus called from the service well, his dark eyes sympathetic. He knew I was running on 4 hours of sleep, knew I'd been at my day job at the coffee shop until 3 that afternoon, knew that tomorrow I'd be back there at 6 a.m. before starting my evening shift here at 5. They're getting loud. Watch yourself. I glanced toward table 7. 4 men in suites that cost more than my monthly rent. Their ties loosened, voices rising with each round. The kind who thought money bought them immunity from consequences. The kind I'd learned to handle with practiced efficiency, polite enough to keep the tips coming, distant enough to discourage assumptions. Got it? I said, loading my tray with their drinks. Premium vodka, craft cocktails, a bottle of champagne they'd probably ordered just to show they could. The bill would clear $300 easy, and if I played it right, they'd tip 20%, $60 that would cover Ethan's basketball shoes, the ones he needed but wouldn't ask for because he knew how tight money was. I crossed the polished hardwood floor, tray balanced perfectly, smile fixed in place. Gentlemen, your drinks. I set them down with practiced precision, clearing empties as I went. Can I get you anything else? Yeah, the one nearest me slurred, his hand shooting out to grab my wrist. Your number. My smile didn't falter even as my stomach clenched. I'm flattered, but I'm working. Is there anything else I can get for your table? Come on, sweetheart. His grip tightened, pulling me closer. The alcohol on his breath made my eyes water. Just one drink after your shift. I'll make it worth your while. I'd been in this situation 100 times. The script was always the same. Deflect with humor. Extract myself gracefully. Avoid bruising the ego that might cost me the tip. I appreciate the offer, but I have to decline. Now, if you'll excuse me, I don't think you understand. His fingers dug into my wrist hard enough that I felt my pulse jump against his palm. I'm not really asking. The bar hadn't gone silent. The music still played. Conversations continued. Marcus was still mixing drinks at the other end. But something had shifted in the air. A change in pressure, like before a storm breaks. I felt it before I saw him. He sat at the far end of the bar, corner seat with a view of both entrances and the entire floor. I'd noticed him when he arrived an hour ago. Hard not to. Dark hair that curled slightly at his collar, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so dark they looked black in the low light. He wore a suit that fit too perfectly to be off the rack. No tie, the top button of his crisp white shirt undone. A gold chain gleamed at his throat. But it wasn't his looks that had caught my attention. It was the way everyone else had reacted to him. The way the manager had personally escorted him to his seat. The way other patrons had given him a wide berth. The way 2 men in equally expensive suits had positioned themselves at nearby tables, their attention constantly scanning the room. Now those dark eyes were fixed on table 7, on the hand wrapped around my wrist. Oh me. He stood with the kind of deliberate calm that made my breath catch. Not rushed, not aggressive, just inevitable. Like gravity, like sunrise, like something you couldn't stop even if you wanted to. The drunk man was still talking, still gripping my wrist, oblivious to the predator approaching. See, girls like you think you're too good for guys like me, but let me tell you something. Who gave you permission to touch her? The voice cut through the ambient noise like a blade through silk. Low, accented Italian, I thought, and carrying the kind of authority that made everyone within earshot freeze. The drunk man turned, irritation flashing across his flushed face. "Excuse me? This is a private conversation. Release her. Now." 3 words. That's all it took. 3 words delivered in a tone that promised consequences beyond imagination. The drunk man's hand fell away from my wrist, as if I'd burned him. I stepped back, cradling my wrist against my chest. Already I could feel the bruises forming, the impression of his fingers pressed into my skin. My hands wanted to shake, but I forced them still. I'd learned long ago not to show weakness, not to let them see fear. The dark-eyed man had reached table 7. Up close, he was even more imposing. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that made the air feel heavier, but it was his eyes that held me captive. Not looking at me now, but at the drunk man who'd grabbed me, and in those depths I saw something cold and calculating. "Do you know who I am?" The drunk man blustered, trying to regain his footing. Alcohol made him brave. Stupid but brave. "My father is— I don't care if your father is the president." The words were spoken quietly, almost conversationally, which somehow made them more terrifying. "You put your hands on someone who didn't want to be touched. In my establishment. That's a problem." His establishment. The words settled over me like cold water. This was Dominic Russo. I'd heard the name whispered by other staff, seen how the manager deferred to him on his rare visits. Everyone knew the Sterling Lounge was owned by someone with connections to Chicago's underworld, but most nights that felt like distant rumor, abstract danger that didn't touch our day-to-day reality. Not anymore. I was just being friendly. The drunk man mumbled, his bravado crumbling under Dominic Russo's stare. "She's a bartender. They're supposed to be friendly back. She's an employee under my protection." Dominic's voice had dropped even lower. I had to strain to hear him over the blood rushing in my Dolan. "Which means when you touch her without consent, you're touching what's mine. Do you understand the distinction?" The drunk man nodded, face paling despite the alcohol flush. His friends had gone silent, suddenly very interested in their drinks. "Apologize." "I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean— not to me." Dominic turned, and those dark eyes found mine. To her. 4 sets of eyes swiveled to me. I forced myself to meet the drunk man's gaze, chin lifted. Pride was sometimes all I had left. "I apologize," he mumbled, the words clearly choking him. "It won't happen again." Dominic studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "No, it won't. Because you're leaving. Now. And you're banned from this establishment permanently. You can't. I can. I am. Marcus." Dominic raised his voice slightly, and the head bartender appeared immediately. "See these gentlemen out. Make sure security has their photos for the banned list." Marcus nodded, his expression carefully. Too neutral. "Yes, sir. Gentlemen, if you'll come with me." The drunk man opened his mouth to protest, caught Dominic's expression, and thought better of it. The 4 men gathered their things and left, escorted by Marcus and 2 security personnel who'd materialized from nowhere. The entire exchange had taken less than 3 minutes. The bar returned to its normal rhythm. Conversations resumed. The music seemed louder suddenly, but I stood frozen, acutely aware that Dominic Russo was still standing 2 feet away, his attention now fully focused on me. "Let me see your wrist." It wasn't a question. Nothing about Dominic Russo seemed to involve questions, just statements of how things would be. I extended my arm, hyper-aware of the tremor in my fingers. His hand was warm when it closed around my wrist, gentle despite the calluses I felt against my skin. He turned my arm carefully, examining the red marks already darkening to purple. "You need ice." He looked up, catching the eye of another staff member. "Bring a first aid kit to my office. And ice." "I'm fine," I said, finding my voice at last. "Really, it's not that bad. I just need to get back to work. Your shift is over." "Mr. Russo, I need the hours. You'll be paid for the full shift." He released my wrist, but his eyes remained locked on mine. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. But you're done for tonight. Come with me. I should have argued. Should have insisted I was fine. That I'd handled worse. That I couldn't afford to lose even a few hours of work. But something in his tone, in the set of his jaw, told me arguing would be pointless. And truthfully, my wrist was throbbing. My hands were shaking harder now that the adrenaline was fading. The thought of pouring drinks, smiling at customers, pretending everything was fine, it felt impossible suddenly. "Okay," I whispered. Dominic nodded, then placed a hand at the small of my back. Not grabbing, not possessive like the drunk man's grip, just guiding, somehow, that made it more intimate, more disarming. I was aware of every point of contact as he led me through the bar, past curious eyes and knowing smirks, toward a door marked private that I'd never been through in 10 months of working here. The hallway beyond was quieter, plush carpet muting our footsteps. Track lighting cast everything in warm amber. We passed several closed doors before Dominic stopped at one at the end of the hall, producing a key from his pocket. His office was nothing like I'd expected. I'd imagined something ostentatious leather and dark wood, maybe a few tasteless displays of wealth. Instead, the space was surprisingly understated. A large desk with a sleek computer setup, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with actual books, not just decorative props. A leather sofa and 2 chairs arranged near a window that overlooked the street below. Art on the walls that looked original, expensive, but chosen for beauty rather than status. "Sit," Dominic said, gesturing to the sofa. "Someone will be here with supplies shortly." I perched on the edge of the cushion, acutely aware of my polyester uniform shirt and cheap black pants in this refined space, aware that I probably smelled like spilled beer and sweat and the lemon pledge we used on the tables, aware that my ponytail was coming loose and my mascara had probably smudged. Dominic moved to a small bar cart in the corner, pouring amber liquid into 2 glasses. He returned, offering me one. "Drink. It'll help with the shaking. I don't drink when I'm working." "You're not working anymore, tonight at least." He pressed the glass into my hand. "It's just whiskey, Lily. I'm not trying to drug you." The use of my name startled me. "How do you know my name?" "I know all my employees' names." He settled into the chair across from me, his own glass cradled in one hand. "Lily Chen, 24. Been working here for 10 months. Exemplary performance reviews. Never late, never calls in sick. Picks up. Extra shifts whenever possible. Coffee shop barista during the day. Taking online courses in business management through the community college." My throat tightened. That much detail wasn't in my employee file. "You've been checking up on me?" "I check up on everyone." He took a sip of his whiskey, watching me over the rim. "Though I'll admit, you caught my attention more than most. A woman working herself to exhaustion across 3 jobs, putting herself through school, maintaining perfect performance despite running on fumes. That's remarkable. Or desperate," I said quietly, the whiskey burning down my throat. Warmth spread through my chest, loosening the knot of tension there. "Or strong." Dominic's eyes held mine. "There's a difference. Strong people do what's necessary. Desperate people do what's easy. You've never taken the easy road, have you, Lily?" Before I could answer, a knock at the door interrupted. A staff member I recognized but didn't know well entered with a day, first aid kit and a plastic bag of ice wrapped in a towel. "Thank you, Angela," Dominic said, taking the supplies. "That'll be all." She nodded and left, but not before shooting me a curious glance. I could already imagine the rumors that would spread. Lily Chen, taken to the boss's office. Lily Chen, getting special treatment. Lily Chen, sleeping her way into favor. The thought made my stomach turn. I'd worked so hard to prove myself, to be seen as competent rather than decorative. One incident was going to undo all of that. "Stop," Dominic said softly, as if reading my mind. He knelt before me, setting the ice and first aid kit on the coffee table. "Whatever you're thinking, stop. You don't know what I'm thinking. I can see it on your face. You're worried about what people will say, what they'll assume." His hands were gentle as he wrapped the ice pack around my wrist, securing it with the towel. "Let them talk. Anyone who matters knows your character. Do you?" I question escaped before I could stop it. "Know my character?" Dominic looked up, his face so close I could see flecks of amber in his dark eyes. "I'm beginning to." The moment stretched between us, charged with something I couldn't name. Wasn't sure I wanted to name. This man was dangerous. Not just because of his reputation, his connections, the whispered warnings about what happened to people who crossed him, but because sitting here in his office, his hands carefully tending my injury, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Safe. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. The ice numbed more than just my wrist. It seemed to freeze the adrenaline that had been keeping me upright, and suddenly I was exhausted. The kind of bone-deep weariness that came from too many double shifts, too many nights of 3 hours sleep, too many months of holding everything together through sheer force of will. Dominic must have seen it. He stood, moving to his desk to retrieve his phone. "I'm having someone drive you home." "That's not necessary. I can take the bus." "At 2:30 in the morning? After what just happened?" His tone brooked no argument. "No, one of my men will drive you." "Mr. Russo, Dominic." He looked up from his phone. "When we're alone, it's Dominic." The intimacy of that request made my pulse quicken. "Dominic, then. I appreciate the concern, but I've been taking the bus home from this shift for 10 months. I'll be fine." That was before. He pocketed his phone, moving back to stand before me. Before what happened tonight. Before every drunk asshole in this city knows someone grabbed you in my bar. Before he stopped himself, jaw tightening. "You're going home safely. That's not negotiable. Why do you care?" The question came out more confrontational than I intended, frustration bleeding through my exhaustion. "I'm just a bartender. You don't know me." "I know enough." Dominic crouched again, bringing himself to eye level. This close, I could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle, cedar and something darker. "I know you're working yourself into the ground to support someone. A younger sibling, I'm guessing, based on the child dependency credit on your W-quater." My breath caught. "You looked at my tax forms?" "I look at everything." "No. No apology, just fact. Brother or sister?" I should have been angry at the invasion of privacy, should have stood up and walked out. Instead, I found myself answering, "Brother, Ethan, he's 16. Your parents?" "Dead, car accident 2 years ago." The words came easier now than they had in the beginning, though the grief never really faded, just became something I carried rather than something that carried me. I got custody. Barely. The social worker wanted to put him in foster care, said I was too young, too unstable financially. But I convinced them to give me 6 months to prove I could provide for him. "And you have." Not a question. Dominic's eyes held a warmth I hadn't expected. "For 2 years now. By yourself. He's my brother. I'm not going to let him get lost in the system just because some caseworker thinks I'm not adequate." The old anger flared, the one that had fueled countless double shifts and sleepless nights. "Ethan's been through enough. He deserves stability. A home. Someone who gives a damn about him." "And what do you deserve, Lily?" The question caught me off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked me that? When was the last time I'd even thought about it? Everything for the past 2 years had been about Ethan. About keeping him safe, fed, clothed, in school. About making sure he had the childhood our parents would have wanted for him. What I deserved had never entered the equation. "I deserve to keep my brother," I said finally. "Everything else is secondary." Dominic studied me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "You're remarkable. Do you know that?" Heat crept up my bay. "I'm just doing what needs to be done. Most people don't. Most people take the easy way out, make excuses, blame circumstances." He stood, extending a hand to help me up. "You fight. That's rare." I took his hand, letting him pull me to my feet. The ice pack fell away from my wrist, which was already feeling better. The bruises would be spectacular tomorrow, but the initial throbbing had subsided. "Thank you," I said quietly, "for intervening tonight. For this." I gestured at the office, the ice pack, the care he'd shown. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." Dominic's hand hadn't released mine. His thumb traced small circles over my knuckles, the gesture somehow both innocent and intimate. "No one touches my people without consequences. Especially not." He stopped himself, but I heard the unfinished thought hanging between us. "Especially not you." A knock at the door broke the moment. One of the men I'd seen sitting near Dominic earlier entered, tall, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through his dark hair. His eyes took in our joined hands before settling on Dominic's face. "Boss, car's ready." "Thank you, Marco." Dominic released my hand, though his fingers lingered a moment longer than necessary. "This is Lily. She'll need a ride home. Take care of her." Marco nodded, his expression carefully neutral. "Of course, Miss Chen, whenever you're ready." I grabbed my jacket and purse from the hook where I'd left them, hyper-aware of both men watching me. At the door, I turned back to Dominic. "Will I see you again?" The question surprised both of us. I hadn't meant to ask it, hadn't meant to reveal that I wanted to see him again, but there it was, hanging in the air between us. Dominic's lips curved in a slight smile. "Yes, soon." The certainty in his voice sent a shiver down my spine. Not fear, though maybe it should have been. Something else. Anticipation. Marco led me through the bar, which had thinned considerably in the hour I'd been in. Dominic's office. The few remaining patrons watched us pass with undisguised curiosity. I kept my eyes forward, chin up, refusing to show discomfort. The car waiting outside was exactly what I'd expected. A sleek black SUV with tinted windows, and the kind of presence that screamed, "Don't fuck with us." Marco opened the back door for me, a courtesy that felt both old-fashioned and slightly absurd given my polyester uniform and minimum wage status. "Where to, Miss Chen?" he asked once we were both inside, the driver pulling smoothly into traffic. I gave him my address, a modest apartment building in a neighborhood that was safe enough during the day, but sketchy after dark. The kind of place where you learn to keep your head down and your door locked. "That's a long commute," Marco observed. "Hour and a half on the bus? Hour 45 if the connections are good, 2.5 if they're not. I'd learn to bring homework, to study on the bus, to make every minute count. It's fine, gives me time to think." "Mr. Russo won't like that." I glanced at him, startled by the familiarity in his tone. Why would Mr. Russo care about my commute? Marco's expression in the rearview mirror was knowing. Because he's already decided you're under his protection, whether you've realized it yet or not. Protection from what? I'm not in danger. Aren't you? Marco's eyes met mine in the mirror. You work 2 jobs in neighborhoods that aren't safe. You travel alone at night. You're exhausted enough that you're not as aware of your surroundings as you should be. And now you've been marked as someone the boss took an interest in. That makes you a target. Ice that had nothing to do with my wrist flooded my veins. A target for what? Rivals who might try to hurt Mr. Russo by hurting people he cares about. Opportunists who think you're an easy payday. Men like the one tonight who think they can take what they want. Marco's voice was matter of fact. Like he was discussing the weather rather than threats to my safety. Mr. Russo doesn't take chances with people under his protection. I didn't ask for his protection. Doesn't matter. You have it now. The SUV pulled up in front of my building, significantly faster than any bus route had ever managed. That's not something you can refuse, Miss Chen. And honestly, you shouldn't want to. Before I could respond, Marco was out of the car and opening my door. He walked me to the building entrance, his eyes constantly scanning the street in a way that made my skin prickle with awareness of dangers I'd been too tired to notice. Thank you for the ride, I managed as I pulled out my keys. I'll be watching until you're inside and the lights are on, Marco said. 4th floor, apartment Catherine C, correct? The fact that he knew my exact apartment number shouldn't have surprised me after Dominic's revelation about my tax forms. But it did. How do you, Mr. Russo, is thorough. Good night, Miss Chen. Lock your deadbolt. I climbed the 4 flights. The elevator had been broken for 3 months, and the landlord kept promising to fix it, acutely aware of Marco watching from the street below. True to his word, he didn't leave until my lights came on, and I appeared at the window to wave that I was safely inside. The apartment was quiet. Ethan's door was closed, soft music leaking from underneath. He'd be asleep soon if he wasn't already. School starting at 7:30 tomorrow morning. I should go to bed too, grab the 4 hours before my coffee shop shift started. But my mind was racing, replaying the evening. The drunk man's hand on my wrist, Dominic's voice cutting through the bar. The careful way he'd tended my injury, the promise in his eyes when he said I'd see him again. I moved to Ethan's door, knocking softly before cracking it open. My brother was sprawled across his bed, textbooks open around him, earbuds still in. He'd fallen asleep studying again. Gently, I removed the earbuds, closed his books, and pulled the blanket over him. At 16, he was already taller than me, all gangly limbs and awkward angles that reminded me so much of Dad it hurt. But asleep like this, he looked younger, vulnerable. The kid I'd promised our parents I'd take care of no matter what. "Love you, Squirt," I whispered, kissing his forehead. He mumbled something incoherent, rolling over without waking. I smiled despite my exhaustion and retreated to my own room. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dominic's face, felt his hands on my wrist, gentle despite the violence I knew they were capable of. Heard his voice saying my name like it meant something. This was dangerous. Getting involved with a man like Dominic Russo, even just accepting his protection, meant entering a world I'd spent my entire life avoiding. A world where violence was currency and loyalty was bought with fear. Where people disappeared and everyone knew better than to ask questions. But as I finally drifted off, one thought kept circling back. For the first time in 2 years, I'd felt safe, protected, like someone else was carrying the weight for a moment, giving me room to breathe. And God help me, I wanted to feel that again. The next 2 days passed in a blur of caffeine and routine. Coffee shop at 6 a.m., class online during my break, the Sterling Lounge from 5 until close. Ethan's basketball game on Thursday night that I almost missed because my bus was late. The usual chaos of juggling too much with too little. But something had changed. I felt it every time I walked into the Sterling Lounge. The other staff treated me differently, not badly, but with a new wariness, a respect that felt unearned. Customers who'd been handsy before kept their distance. Even the manager, Richard, had stopped making passive-aggressive comments about my scheduling requests. Dominic hadn't returned to the bar. I told myself I wasn't disappointed. Told myself it was better this way, that whatever moment we'd shared in his office was just adrenaline and circumstances. But I found myself watching the door every time it opened. Wondering. Hoping. Friday night, things changed. I was mixing drinks at the main bar, the weekend crowd in full swing, when Richard appeared at my elbow. "Lily, Mr. Russo just called. He wants to see you in his office." My heart jumped into my throat. Now? I'm in the middle of now. Richard's expression was unreadable. "I'll cover your section." The walk to Dominic's office felt longer than it had 3 days ago. My palms were sweating. My pulse hammered in my ears. I had no idea what he wanted, why he'd summoned me. Had I done something wrong? Was he going to fire me for some perceived slight? I knocked on his door, cursing the tremor in my hand. "Come in." Dominic sat behind his desk, looking every inch the powerful man he was. Dark suit, white shirt, that gold chain catching the light. But his eyes softened when they landed on me, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "Lily." "Close the door." I obeyed, standing awkwardly in the center of his office. "You wanted to see me? How's your wrist?" I glanced down at the bruises, now a spectacular purple-yellow. "Fine. Healing." "Good." He stood, moving around the desk to lean against it, closer to me, but not crowding. "I have a proposition for you." My stomach dropped. Here it was the price for his protection, his intervention. I'd been naive to think it would come for free. Men like Dominic Russo didn't do anything without expecting something in return. "What kind of proposition?" I asked, proud of how steady my voice remained. "I want to hire you, full-time, working for me directly, not as a bartender." Whatever I'd expected, it wasn't that. "I don't understand." "I need someone I can trust to manage several of my legitimate business ventures. Someone smart, capable, with a business mind, and attention to detail." His eyes held mine. "Someone who doesn't scare easily and knows how to handle difficult situations. I'm not qualified. You run 2 jobs, take care of a teenager, and maintain straight A's in your business courses while sleeping 4 hours a night. You're more qualified than half the MBAs I've interviewed." He straightened, taking a step closer. "The salary would be $80,000 a year to start. Health insurance, retirement benefits, standard 9 to 5 hours, weekdays only. No more night shifts, no more bus rides at 2 a. And the numbers didn't make sense. 80,000? That was more than double what I made working myself to exhaustion across 3 jobs. It was stability. Security. Time with Ethan. The ability to breathe. It was too good to be true. Why? The question came out barely above a whisper. Why me? You could hire anyone. Because you're loyal. Honest. You work hard not because someone's watching, but because that's who you are. Dominic's hand came up, to cup my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. The gesture was tender, almost reverent. And because when I look at you, I see something I haven't seen in a very long time. What's that? Someone worth protecting. Worth investing in. Worth... He stopped, something vulnerable flashing across his face before the mask slid back into place. Just say yes, Lily. Let me take care of this for you. For Ethan. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. That accepting meant owing him something I couldn't afford to give. That men like Dominic Russo didn't offer salvation without expecting your soul in return. But I was so tired. Tired of fighting, of scraping by, of pretending I wasn't drowning. And the hand on my face was so gentle, the promise in his eyes so tempting. What do you want in return? I asked bluntly. Because nobody gives that kind of money, that kind of opportunity, without wanting something. Dominic's lips curved in a slight smile. Smart girl. Yes, there is. Something I want. What? For you to stop working yourself to death. To sleep more than 4 hours a night. To have time for your brother, for your studies, for yourself. His thumb traced my jaw. I want you healthy, safe. That's what I want in return, Lily. Nothing more. I don't believe you. I know. You've learned not to trust easily. His hand dropped, leaving my skin cold. So here's what we'll do. Take the weekend to think about it. Talk to Ethan if you want. Research me, my businesses, whatever you need to feel secure. Then Monday, you give me your answer. And if I say no, then you say no. You keep your job here. No retaliation. No consequences. I'll respect your decision. He moved back to his desk, putting physical distance between us. But I hope you'll say yes. I should have left then. I should have taken the out he was offering. Instead, I heard myself ask, "Can I ask you something? Anything." That night, when that man grabbed me, you said I was under your protection, that he touched what was yours. I met his eyes directly. What did you mean? Dominic was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost dangerous. I meant that from the moment you walked into my bar 10 months ago, I noticed you. Every shift. I watched you work yourself to exhaustion. Watched you handle drunk assholes with grace. Watched you smile even when you were dead on your feet. And something in me said mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened me. Instead, it sent heat pooling in my stomach. I don't even know you, I whispered. Then get to know me. Take the job. Work with me. Let me show you who I am beyond the reputation. He stood again, moving back into my space. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly, Lily. I'm asking you to give me a chance to earn that trust. And if you can't, if I decide you're as dangerous as everyone says, then you walk away. I won't stop. His hand came up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture now familiar, but I think you'll be surprised. I'm not the monster people think I am. Not with you. I should have left. Should have said I needed time to think. But standing there in his office, his hand gentle on my face, his eyes promising things I'd stopped letting myself want: safety, security, something that felt dangerously close to care. I found the words tumbling out before I could stop them. I'll take the weekend, but I want to meet on Sunday, somewhere public, somewhere we can talk. Really talk. About what this job entails, what you expect, all of it. No more half-truths or mysterious offers. Dominic's smile was genuine this time, transforming his face from handsome to devastating. Sunday, noon. I know a place quiet, safe, good food. I'll have Marco pick you up. I can meet you there. Lily. His tone was gentle but firm. Let me take care of the small things. Please. That please. Undid something in my chest. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good. Now go home. Get some sleep. I'm sure Ethan is waiting up. He was right, of course. When Marco dropped me off, apparently now a permanent arrangement without anyone asking my permission, I found Ethan sprawled on the couch, pretending to watch TV but clearly waiting for me. "You're home early," he observed as I collapsed beside him. "It's only midnight. Boss let me off early." Not technically a lie. "How was the game?" "We won. Coach put me in for the fourth quarter." Ethan's face lit up with the news, the way it always did when he talked about basketball. "I scored 6 points. That's amazing, E." I hugged him, ignoring his half-hearted protests about being too old for that. "I'm sorry I missed it." "It's okay. I know you're working." He pulled back, studying my face with an intensity that reminded me he wasn't a kid anymore. "Lily, are you all right? You seem different. Since that night you came home, with the bruises." I'd forgotten how perceptive he was. Had forgotten that for all his teenage bravado, Ethan paid attention to things. "I'm fine. Just tired." "You're always tired." His voice took on that edge it got when he was worried, but trying not to show it. "You work too much. I keep telling you, I can get a job, help out no." I cut him off firmly. "Your job is school and basketball and being 16. I've got this." "But what if you didn't have to got this alone?" Ethan turned to face me fully. "What if someone helped? Would that be so bad?" The question hung between us, loaded with meaning. I wasn't sure he understood. "What are you talking about?" "That guy who's been having someone drive you home. The owner of the bar." Ethan's expression was carefully neutral. "Marcus said he's someone important. Someone who could make our lives easier if you let him." Ice flooded my veins. "When did you talk to Marcus?" "He came by the coffee shop on Tuesday. Said he was checking on you, making sure we were okay." Ethan shrugged, trying for casual and failing. "He seems nice. Said his boss is a good man who takes care of people." "Ethan." I grabbed his shoulders, making him look at me. "Did Marcus say anything else? Did he ask you anything strange?" "No. God, Lily, relax." He pulled away, defensive now. "He just said that if we ever needed anything, his boss wanted us to know we could ask. That we were under protection now." "What does that even mean?" I closed my eyes, trying to breathe through the panic. Dominic's reach extended further than I'd realized. Of course he'd have someone check on Ethan. Of course he'd want to make sure my brother was safe. It should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like someone else was finally carrying the weight, taking some of the burden I'd been shouldering alone. "It means someone's looking out for us," I said finally, opening my eyes to meet Ethan's curious gaze. "Someone who wants to help." Is that a bad? I don't know yet. Honesty seemed like the best policy. Ethan was smart enough to see through lies anyway. But I'm going to find out. Tomorrow I'm meeting with him, really talking, and then we'll decide together, okay? Both of us. Ethan's face brightened. "Both of us? You're actually going to let me have a say? You're 16, not 6. This affects you too." I ruffled his hair, dodging when he tried to swat my hand away. "We're a team, E. We make big decisions together. Then I vote yes. Whatever this guy is offering, I vote we take it." At my surprised look, Ethan continued. "You've been killing yourself for 2 years to take care of me, Lily. You dropped out of university, gave up your friends, gave up everything to make sure I had a home. Let someone help us for once. Please." The please, so similar to Dominic's earlier, cracked something in my chest. When had my little brother become so mature? When had he started worrying about me instead of the other way? "Around?" "We'll talk about it Sunday," I promised, "after I meet with him. But whatever we decide together. Deal?" "Deal." We shook on it, the gesture silly and solemn at once. Then Ethan yawned, teenage metabolism finally catching up with him. "I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late studying or whatever it is you do when you think I'm asleep." "Yes, boss." I watched him lumber toward his room, all oversized feet and teenager awkwardness. "Hey, E?" He turned in the doorway. "Yeah, I love you. You know that, right?" His expression softened, showing me a glimpse of the boy he'd been before our parents died. "I know. Love you too, sis. Even when you're being overprotective and crazy." After he disappeared into his room, I sat in the quiet apartment, letting the events of the past few days wash over me. Dominic's offer, Marco's watchful presence, The way staff at the bar treated me differently now. Ethan's unexpected maturity. Everything was changing, shifting beneath my feet like sand. I could dig in, fight to keep things as they were, hard but familiar, exhausting but mine. Or I could let go. Let someone else carry the weight for a while. Take the risk that Dominic Russo was offering what he said he was, with no hidden costs beyond what he'd already stated. It went against every survival instinct I'd developed. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop just surviving. Maybe it was time to start living. Sunday arrived, wrapped in November sunshine that did nothing to warm the Chicago wind. I'd spent Saturday alternating between online stalking Dominic Russo, which yielded surprisingly little concrete information beyond vague references to business interests and a few society page photos, and nervous preparation. What did you wear to meet a crime boss for brunch? The question had sent me spiraling, until Ethan had rolled his eyes and pulled out a simple navy dress I'd forgotten I owned. Wear this, do your hair nice, and stop freaking out. He's already seen you in your bartender uniform. Anything is an upgrade. Now, standing in front of the mirror at 11:30, I had to admit Ethan was right. The dress was modest, but flattering, hitting just above my knees. I'd left my hair down, applied minimal makeup, and borrowed Ethan's favorite cologne since I didn't own any perfume. I looked put together, professional, like someone who could potentially manage business ventures rather than just serve drinks. The buzzer rang at 11:45. Marco, right on time. You got this, Ethan said from his spot on the couch, where he was supposedly doing homework but actually watching me with poorly concealed excitement. And text me if anything feels weird. I'll call the cops. The cops won't help against Dominic Russo, I said without thinking. Ethan grinned. Then I'll call his competition. There's always someone bigger, right? I laughed despite my nerves. How did you get so smart? Learned from the best. He made a rescuing last, shooing motion. Now go. Don't keep the scary crime boss waiting. The restaurant Dominic had chosen was in a neighborhood I'd never visited, the kind of area where real estate was measured in millions, and everyone walked small designer dogs. The building itself was understated but elegant. No sign out front, just a number on a burnished bronze plaque. Marco opened the car door, then escorted me inside where a hostess greeted us with professional warmth. Miss Chen, Mr. Russo is expecting you. Right this way. She led me through a dining room scattered with well-dressed patrons enjoying brunch, then through a door into a private section I hadn't known existed. Only one table was occupied. Dominic stood as I entered, and my breath caught despite my best efforts. He wore dark slacks and a cream-colored sweater that somehow made his olive skin glow. More casual than I'd ever seen him, but no less commanding. Lily, thank you for coming. He moved to pull out my chair, a gesture so old-fashioned it caught me off guard. I hope you don't mind. I ordered us some mimosas. Non-alcoholic if you prefer. Regular is fine, I managed, settling into the chair. The table was set beautifully fresh flowers, fine china, a view of a small private garden that somehow existed in the middle of this concrete jungle. Dominic settled across from me, and for a moment we just looked at each other. In the natural light, I could see details I'd missed in the bar's low lighting. The faint scar through his right eyebrow, the way his eyes crinkled slightly at the corners when he smiled, the strength in his hands as they rested on the table. You're staring, he said softly, lips curving. So are you. True. He didn't look away. You're beautiful, Lily. I don't think I've said that yet. Heat crept up my neck. You didn't bring me here to compliment me. No. I brought you here to be honest with you. Dominic leaned forward, expression serious. You asked for transparency. You'll get it. Ask me anything. I'll answer truthfully, even if the truth isn't pretty. I took a sip of the mimosa, perfectly balanced. Expensive champagne, buying myself time to organize my thoughts. Okay. First question. What exactly do you do? Everyone knows you're involved in organized crime, but nobody says specifics. Because specifics get people killed. Dominic's tone was matter-of-fact. But you deserve to know. I run several legitimate businesses, restaurants, bars, a construction company, some real estate. Those are completely legal and profitable. I also control gambling operations, high-end escort services, and occasionally facilitate transactions for people who prefer to avoid traditional banking systems. Money laundering, among other things. He didn't flinch from my blunt assessment. I don't deal drugs. I don't traffic people. I don't hurt civilians who haven't hurt me first. Those are my lines. Other families don't have the same lines. But you do. We hurt people. Not a question. Yes. When they threaten what's mine. When they break agreements. When they target innocent people under my protection. His eyes held mine. I won't pretend to be someone I'm not, Lily. I've done things you'd find horrifying. But I have a code, and I don't break it. The honesty was bracing, terrifying, and strangely reassuring at once. And the job you're offering me, would it involve the illegal activities? No. You'd manage my legitimate businesses, books, operations, staffing, expansions. All above board, all legal. He paused. You would, however, work closely with people who are involved in less legitimate ventures. You'd see things, overhear conversations. You couldn't be naive about what the money you're managing comes from. Plausible deniability. Exactly. Dominic sat back as a waiter appeared with food, perfectly cooked eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, pastries that smelled like heaven. You'd be protected, insulated from anything that worthiness could get you in legal trouble. But you'd know. And you'd have to be okay with knowing. I absorbed this while the waiter disappeared. Everything Dominic was describing should have sent me running. Should have made me grab Ethan and flee to another city, another life. But there was something in his directness, his refusal to sugarcoat or manipulate, that made me trust him more than if he'd tried to paint himself as legitimate. Second question, I said, cutting into my eggs. Why me? Really? I know you said I'm loyal and hardworking, but so are lots of people. What's the real reason you're offering me this? Dominic was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. When he spoke, his voice was lower, more intimate, because when that drunk touched you, something in me snapped. I've seen hundreds of women harassed in my establishments over the years. I've intervened when necessary, banned offenders, maintained order. But with you. He shook his head. It was different, personal, like someone had touched something precious that belonged to me. I don't belong to anyone. I know, poor choice of words. He ran a hand through his hair, uncharacteristically uncertain. What I mean is, I felt protective of you in a way I haven't felt about anyone in a long time. And then I learned about Ethan, about what you've been doing to take care of him, and that feeling intensified. You're 24, and you've taken on responsibilities that would break most people. You deserve help, support, someone to take care of you for a change. And you want to be that someone. Yes, simple, direct. I want to take care of you, Lily. You and Ethan both. I want to make your lives easier, safer, better. Not because I expect anything in return beyond you working for me, which you'd be paid well to do anyway, but because something in me recognizes something in you, and I can't walk away from that. The words settled over me like a blanket, warm and suffocating at sea. Once. That sounds like more than just employer-employee concern. It is. Dominic's eyes never left mine. I'm attracted to you, have been since I first saw you, but I'm not offering you the job in exchange for anything romantic or physical. Those are separate things. You can take the job and maintain professional boundaries, and I'll respect that completely. Or he paused. Or you can take the job and explore what this is between us. That choice is entirely yours. My heart hammered against my ribs. And if I take the job but don't want anything personal, then I'll be disappointed, but I'll handle it. You'll never be pressured, never made uncomfortable. You'll have your own office, your own projects, your own autonomy. Marco will ensure your safety, but he's not there to control you. Dominic leaned forward again. I'm not Jack Thornton, Lily. I'm not your ex or any other man who's tried to cage you. I don't want to own you. I want to partner with you. You don't even write. To know if I'm good at business management. A smile ghosted across his lips. I've seen your grades. I've watched how you handle the chaos of a busy bar, how you manage difficult customers and staff politics. You're a natural manager, Lily. You just haven't had the opportunity to prove it in a traditional setting. This isn't exactly a traditional setting. No, he agreed. But it's honest. And I think you value honesty more than tradition. He was right about that. I took another bite of the eggs, which were perfect, buying time to process everything he'd said. The offer was insane. Working for a crime boss, even in legitimate businesses, meant proximity to danger, meant accepting moral compromises, meant entering a world I'd always avoided. But it also meant security for Ethan, time to finish my degree properly, the ability to give my brother the life our parents would have wanted for him. And if I was being honest with myself, it meant something else too, the chance to explore whatever this pull was between Dominic and me. This magnetic attraction that felt dangerous and inevitable all at once. Third question, I said finally. What happens if I say yes but it doesn't work out? If I hate the job, or realize I can't handle the moral gray areas, or just want to leave? Then you leave. I'll give you a generous severance, 6 months' salary, and help you find another position elsewhere. No retaliation, no threats, no drama. His expression was serious. I want you to stay, Lily, but only if you want to be here. Fear and obligation don't build the kind of loyalty I need. And if something happens between us personally and it ends badly? Pain flickered across his face. Then we handle it like adults. You'd still have your job if you wanted it, or the option to leave with the same severance. I won't punish you for not wanting me romantically. The vulnerability in his voice undid something in my chest. This wasn't manipulation. This was a powerful man, showing me he could be hurt, giving me the power to hurt him, trusting me with that power. It was the most seductive thing he could have done. I need to talk to Ethan, I said quietly. He's part of this decision. But if he's okay with it. I took a deep breath, committing before I could second-guess myself. Then yes, I'll take the job, and the words stuck in my throat. I'd like to see where this goes. Between us, if that offer's still on the table. The smile that transformed Dominic's face was worth every risk I was taking. Pure joy, unguarded and real. The offer's still on the table. Will always be on the table where you're concerned. He reached across, taking my hand in his. His thumb traced the fading bruises on my wrist, now yellow-green and barely visible. I'm going to take care of you, Lily Chen. You and your brother both. That's a promise. I'm not a damsel who needs rescuing. No, you're a warrior who's been fighting alone too long. There's a rescuing to difference. He raised my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that sent heat racing through my veins. Let me fight alongside you, instead of watching you struggle. That's all I'm asking. In that moment, sitting in a private room of an expensive restaurant with a man whose very name made people nervous, I made my choice. Not because I was desperate, though I was. Not because I had no other options, though I didn't. But because something in me recognized something in him. And I was tired of being afraid. Tired of fighting alone. Tired of pretending I didn't want someone to share the weight. Okay, I whispered. Partners. Partners, Dominic agreed, his smile genuine and warm. In business, and in everything else. The transition happened faster than I'd expected. By Tuesday, I'd given notice at both the coffee shop and the Sterling Lounge, though Dominic assured me I'd still technically be on the bar's payroll, just in a different capacity. By Wednesday, I had my own office in a building I hadn't known Dominic owned, 3 blocks from the bar in a neighborhood that felt safer in daylight. The office was modest but professional, large windows overlooking the street, a desk that actually had drawers that worked, a computer setup that didn't lag every 5 seconds. Compared to studying on my phone while riding the bus, it felt like luxury. Your first project, Dominic said, setting a thick folder on my desk that first morning. He'd personally shown me around, introduced me to staff who looked at me with curious but respectful eyes. The Sterling Lounge's books for the past year. I want a full audit expenses, revenue, staffing costs, areas where we're bleeding money. I opened the folder, scanning the first few pages. You think someone's stealing? I think Richard has gotten comfortable in his management position. Comfortable people make mistakes. Or worse. Dominic leaned against my desk, arms crossed. Find the mistakes. Find the theft, if there is any. Then tell me what needs to change. It was a test. I knew that. Prove I could handle the work, handle the responsibility, handle discovering potentially damaging information about someone Dominic employed. What happens if I find theft? That depends on how much and how long it's been going on. His expression was unreadable. But you report to me, not to him. Whatever you find, I want to know first. The weight of that responsibility settled over me. This wasn't serving drinks and deflecting handsy customers. This was real work with real consequences. Okay, I'll start today. Dominic's hand came to rest on my shoulder, warm through my blazer. You're going to be excellent at this. I know it. How can you be so sure? Because you care about doing things right. And because... He paused, thumb tracing small circles at the base of my neck. Because I believe in you, Lily. Maybe it's time you believed in yourself. The words hit deeper than they should have. When was the last time someone had said they believed in me? When was the last time I'd believed in myself, beyond just survival mode? Thank you, I whispered. For this? For everything. Thank me by taking a lunch break. And eating actual food, not vending machine garbage. His lips quirked. Marco will bring you lunch at noon. Don't argue. I opened my mouth to do exactly that, then closed it at his knowing look. Fine, but I'm paying him back. You can try. Dominic moved toward the door, then paused. Dinner tonight? I'd like to meet Ethan properly. If that's all right with you both. My heart jumped. You want to meet my brother? He's important to you. That makes him important to me. Simple logic delivered like fact. Besides, if we're doing this, really doing this, he should know who I am, what I am, make his own judgment. The fact that Dominic understood Ethan needed to be part of this decision rather than just along for the ride, made something in my chest tighten. I'll ask him. Text you his answer? Perfect. He smiled, that genuine warmth that transformed his face. I'll see you later. And Lily? Lock your door when I leave. This building is safe, but humor me. After he left, I did lock the door. Then I sat at my desk, staring at the folder full of financial records, trying to process how much my life had changed in less than a week. 7 days ago, I was a bartender working herself to exhaustion. Now I had an office, a salary that made my eyes water when I'd seen the first deposit notification, and a maybe boyfriend who happened to control half of Chicago's underworld. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. How's the first day? Are you a corporate sellout yet? I smiled, typing back. Total sellout. Already have a corner office and everything. Also, Dominic wants to meet you properly. Dinner tonight? The response came quickly. The crime boss wants to have dinner with me? This is the coolest thing that's ever. We happened. Yes. It's not cool, E. It's serious. He's serious. I know. I Googled him. I'm still in. What did you find when you Googled him? Not much. Which means he's either really good at covering his tracks or really dangerous. Probably both. Still in. I shook my head, torn between exasperation and affection. Ethan had always been braver than me, more willing to take risks, to trust people. Sometimes I envied that about him. Fine. Sept PM, and wear something nice. Not the hoodie with the holes. You're no fun. I'm your guardian. Fun isn't in the job description. I set the phone aside and opened the folder. Time to prove I deserved this opportunity. The numbers told a story. Richard had been skimming not huge amounts, but consistently. A few hundred here, a few hundred there. Enough that over a year it added up to nearly $20,000. He'd hidden it well, burying false expanses in legitimate categories. But once I knew what to look for, the pattern emerged. I spent 4 hours building a case, cross-referencing receipts with actual deliveries, checking vendor invoices against what had supposedly been paid. By the time Marco knocked on my door with lunch soup, sandwich, fruit, enough food for 2 people, I had a damning report ready. Mr. Russo asked me to remind you to actually eat, not just work through lunch, Marco said, setting the bag on my desk. He said you have a tendency to forget meals. He's known me less than a week. How would he know that? Marco's expression was fond. Because he pays attention, and because he recognizes the signs of someone who puts everyone else first. That sounds personal. It is. Marco moved toward the door. His mother was the same way. Worked herself to the bone taking care of others. Never asked for help even when she needed it. He couldn't save her, but he can save you from the same fate. If you let him. Before I could respond, Marco was gone, leaving me with food I didn't have time for and information that made my chest ache. Dominic's mother. I remembered the inspiration videos mentioning difficult childhoods, trauma that shaped these men. Clearly, Dominic had his own demons. I forced myself to eat half the sandwich, then returned to work. By 5 o'clock, I had a comprehensive report, complete with documentation. I texted Dominic, "Finish the audit. When do you want to discuss findings?" His response was immediate. "My office, 6 p.m. And Lily? Whatever you found, don't feel guilty about reporting it." How did he always know what I was thinking? At 6 sharp, I stood outside Dominic's office, not at the bar, but in the same building as mine, top floor, with views that probably cost more than most people's houses. His assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Carla, waved me through without making me wait. Dominic sat behind a massive desk, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that made my mouth go dry. He was reviewing something on his computer, expression focused, and it's a moment I just watched him. The way his brow furrowed when he concentrated. The way he worried his bottom lip between his teeth. The casual power in every line of his body. "You're staring again," he said without looking up, lips curving. "You're distracting." "Good to know." He closed the laptop, giving me his full attention. "Show me what you found." I laid out the report, walking him through the evidence methodically. Richard had been stealing for at least 18 months, maybe longer. The amounts had increased gradually, testing boundaries, seeing what he could get away with. Recently, he'd gotten bolder. 20,000, Dominic said when I finished, his voice eerily calm. "He stole $20,000 from me." "Yes, but it's not just the money." I pointed to a section of the report. "He's been comping drinks to friends, giving unauthorized raises to staff who," I hesitated, "who are likely helping him cover tracks. Names." I rattled them off. 3 servers, 2 bartenders, the assistant manager. All people I'd worked alongside. People I'd thought were friends. The knowledge that they'd been part of this, that they'd been stealing while I worked myself to exhaustion just to keep rent paid, made my stomach turn. "You did excellent work," Dominic said, pulling me from my thoughts. "This is thorough, detailed, exactly what I needed. Thank you. What happens now?" "Now? I handle it." He stood, coming around the desk. "You don't worry about it. Dominic, they stole from me, Lily. That has consequences." His expression was hard now, the warmth gone. "But those consequences are mine to deliver, not yours to carry. People could get hurt. Yes. Their bank accounts will hurt when I press charges. Their reputations will hurt when I blackball them from every legitimate establishment in this city." He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "But I'm not going to break their legs, if that's what you're worried about. Violence is expensive and draws attention. Legal consequences are more effective." Relief flooded through me. "You promise?" "I promise. No physical violence unless they make it necessary." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "You have a kind heart, Lily Chen. Don't ever lose that. But also don't feel guilty for doing your job well. They made their choices. Now they live with them." I nodded, leaning into his touch despite the logical part of my brain that said I shouldn't be seeking comfort from the man who was about to destroy people's lives. But his hands were gentle, his voice steady, and I was so tired of carrying everything alone. "Come on," Dominic said, straightening. "Let's pick up your brother. I'm looking forward to meeting him properly. He's looking forward to meeting you too, possibly too forward. He thinks you're cool." Dominic laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "I haven't been called cool since I was 16. This should be interesting." Ethan was waiting on the front, steps when we pulled up, practically vibrating with excitement. He'd actually listened, and worn the nice shirt I'd bought him for school events, his hair combed, looking absurdly young and eager. "He looks terrified," Dominic observed quietly. "He's excited. This is his excited face." "If you say so." Dominic exited the car, and I watched Ethan's eyes go wide as he took in the man who'd been driving me home, protecting us from the shadows. "Mr. Russo." Ethan extended his hand, trying for mature and landing somewhere near adorable. "Thank you for having me to dinner. And for, everything you've been doing for us." Dominic shook his hand gravely, treating him like an adult rather than a kid. "Ethan, please call me Dominic. And it's my pleasure. Your sister speaks very highly of you." "She does?" Ethan glanced at me, surprise evident. Constantly. Dominic's hand found the small of my back as we moved toward the car. She's very proud of you. As she should be. The drive to the restaurant, a different one, family-style Italian, the kind with checkered tablecloths and actual warmth, was filled with Ethan's questions. He asked about Dominic's businesses, his interests, how he'd met me. Dominic answered with patience and honesty, never talking down to him, never deflecting. So you're actually a crime boss, Ethan said as we waited for our food. That's real. Not just rumors. Ethan! I hissed, mortified. But Dominic smiled. Yes, it's real. I'm involved in activities that exist outside legal frameworks. Some would call me a criminal. They wouldn't be wrong. But you're helping us. Why? Because your sister is remarkable and you're important to her. That makes you important to me. Dominic met Ethan's eyes directly. I'm not going to lie to you, Ethan. My world is dangerous. By association, being close to me puts you both at risk. But I can also protect you in ways no one else can. The question is whether you're comfortable with that trade-off. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his expression more serious than I'd seen in years. Do you care about my sister? Actually care, not just because she's useful or whatever. Ethan. My face burned. No, it's a fair question. Dominic's gaze shifted to me, warm and intense. Yes. I care about her. More than I've cared about anyone in a very long time. More than is probably wise, given how recently we met. And you're not going to hurt her? Because I'll find a way to hurt you back if you do. The threat from a 16-year-old should have been laughable. Somehow, in that moment, it wasn't. I believe you would try. Dominic's tone was respectful. And I appreciate that you're protective of her. She deserves that. All I can tell you is that I have no intention of hurting Lily. My goal is to make her life better, easier, safer. But I can't promise I'll always succeed. My world is complicated. So is ours, Ethan said, glancing at me. We've been handling complicated for 2 years. We can handle more of it if it means Lily doesn't have to work herself to death. Tears stung my eyes. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. You've been carrying everything for both of us. Now someone's offering to help carry it. I'm saying yes. He turned back to Dominic. I'm in. Just don't make me regret it. Dominic extended his hand across the table. They shook on it. And I watched my brother and my maybe boyfriend form an alliance that terrified and touched me in equal measure. The rest of dinner passed in easier conversation. Dominic asked about Ethan's basketball, his classes, his plans for college. Ethan asked about Dominic's restaurants, what I'd be doing in my new job, whether it was true that Marco used to be in the military. By the time we finished dessert, Ethan was completely at ease, laughing at Dominic's dry humor, teasing me about my non-existent cooking skills. I like him, Ethan declared after Dominic dropped us off, and we were alone in the apartment. He's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone scarier? More obvious villain vibes? Ethan threw himself on the couch. But he's just a guy. A really powerful, dangerous guy who could probably have us killed with a phone call, but also a guy who clearly thinks you hung the moon and wants to take care of us. I can work with that. This isn't a game, E. This is serious. Dangerous. So is being poor, Ethan said quietly. So is worrying about whether we'll make rent. Whether you'll collapse from exhaustion. Whether the social worker will decide I'm better off in foster care because you're struggling. This what Dominic's offering, it gives us a real shot at stability. At you finishing your degree. At me going to college without burying you in debt. That's worth some danger. I sunk onto the couch beside him, pulling my baby brother, who wasn't so baby anymore, into a hug. When did you get so wise? Had a good teacher. He hugged me back, rare moment of open affection. It's gonna be okay, Lily. I know you're scared, but I think he's good for you. I think this is good for us. I hope you're right. I'm always right. You should know that by now. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of adjustment and revelation. I threw myself into work, auditing books, streamlining operations, discovering I actually loved business management. The puzzle of it. Finding inefficiencies and fixing them, making systems run smoother. Dominic had been right, I was good at this. Richard and his accomplices had been fired and charges filed. The staff who remained treated me with new respect, tinged with wariness. I was the woman who'd taken down the manager, who had the boss's ear and protection. Some resented it. Most just adjusted. Ethan thrived. Better nutrition, better sleep because I was home at reasonable hours, new basketball shoes without him having to feel guilty. He'd even made the varsity team, something that had him floating on air for days. And Dominic, we fell into a rhythm that felt natural despite its strangeness. Dinner twice a week, sometimes with Ethan, sometimes just us. Long conversations in his office, after I finished work. His hand at my back becoming familiar, expected, welcome. Kiss that started soft and sweet, but threatened to turn into more, until one of us pulled back, maintaining the careful boundary between what we were and what we might become. "You're holding back," he said one night, 3 weeks into our arrangement. We were in his office, takeout containers spread across his desk, city lights painting everything in gold and shadow. "What do you mean? You want more? I can see it in how you respond when I touch you. How you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention." He set down his chopsticks, attention fully on me. "But you keep pulling back. Why?" "Because I was terrified. Because the last time I'd let someone in, they'd left me, alone to pick up the pieces. Because giving Dominic everything felt like standing on a cliff's edge, and I wasn't sure if he'd catch me or let me fall. I'm scared," I admitted quietly. "Everything is moving so fast. 3 weeks ago, you were just the owner who came in occasionally. Now you're—" I gestured helplessly. "Everything's different. Is different bad?" "No. That's what scares me." I met his eyes. "It's good, too good. And I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for this to be too good to be true." Dominic stood, moving around the desk to crouch before me. His hands found mine, warm and solid. "I can't promise perfection, Lily. I can't promise there won't be complications or danger or moments where you question this choice. But I can promise I'm in this. Fully. Whatever this becomes, however far you want to take it, I'm here. What if I want to take it all the way?" The words escaped before I could stop them. Raw and honest and terrifying. "What if I want to stir everything? Then you take it." His thumb traced my jaw, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. "All of me, Lily. Every broken piece, every dark corner, every part of me that's been sleeping until you walked into my life and woke it up. It's yours if you want it. I want it." My voice was barely a whisper. "I want you." The kiss was inevitable. Dominic's lips met mine with a hunger that had been building for weeks, restrained desire finally given permission. I gasped against his mouth and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't remember why we'd been waiting, why we'd been careful. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer, and I went willingly. Wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him back with everything I'd been holding in check. Want and need and the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone see all of you. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against mine. "Come home with me tonight. Really home, not just to one. My office. Ethan is 16 and perfectly capable of one night alone. Marco will be outside your building. Nothing will happen to him." Dominic's hands framed my face, his eyes dark and intense. "Come home with me, Lily. Let me show you what it's like when someone takes care of you for a change." I should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries, kept things professional for longer, been more cautious. But I was tired of being cautious, tired of holding back. "Okay," I breathed. "Take me home." Dominic's home, his real home. Not the mansion I'd seen in photos, but a penthouse apartment overlooking the lake was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views that stole my breath. Minimal furniture, but what existed was clearly expensive. Art on the walls that was probably original. A kitchen that looked barely used. "Drink?" he asked, shrugging out of his jacket. "Just water." I was nervous enough without alcohol muddling things. He brought me water, poured himself. Whiskey. And we stood at the windows watching the city sprawl below us. Chicago at night, all lights and movement and possibility. "I haven't brought anyone here," Dominic said quietly. "Not in 5 years. This is my private space, where I come to think, to be alone. You're the first person I've wanted to share it with." The admission made my throat tight. Why me? Because you see me. He turned to face me, setting his glass aside. Not the reputation, not the money or power. You see the person underneath all that. And you haven't run. Should I have run? Probably. His hand came up to cup my cheek, thumb tracing my lower lip. I'm not safe, Lily. I'm not the white knight. I'm the morally gray one who does questionable things for the right reasons. Or what I tell myself are the right reasons. I don't need a white knight. I leaned into his touch, emboldened by his honesty. I need someone real. Someone who sees me too. All the broken, exhausted pieces. And still thinks, I'm worth fighting for. You're worth everything, Dominic said. And then he was kissing me again. This time there was no holding back. We moved through his apartment in a blur of discarded clothing and desperate touch. He was gentle despite his hunger, checking in with every new step. Making sure I wanted this, wanted him. Yes, I breathed against his mouth when he hesitated. God, yes, Dominic. Don't stop. So he didn't. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, and Dominic's arm around my waist. For a moment, panic flared. Then memory returned, and I relaxed into his warmth. Morning, he murmured against my neck, clearly awake. How are you feeling? Good. Really good. I turned in his arms to face him. In the morning light, he looked softer, less dangerous. Just a man who'd held me through the night like I was precious. No regrets. Good. He kissed me, soft and sweet, because I'm not letting you go now. Possessive, completely. No apology in his. You're mine now, Lily. I take care of what's mine. The possessiveness should have bothered me. After everything with my ex, after fighting so hard for independence, I should have chafed at being claimed. But with Dominic, it felt different. Not like ownership, but like protection. Like partnership. Yours, I agreed, testing how the word felt. It felt right. As long as you're mine too. Always have been. Dominic pulled me closer. From the moment you walked into my bar 10 months ago, I just had to wait for you to catch up. My phone buzzed from somewhere on the floor where my clothes had ended up. Reality intruding on our cocoon. I should check that. Make sure Ethan's okay. 5 more minutes, Dominic murmured, tightening his hold. The world can wait 5 more minutes. So I stayed, wrapped in his arms, watching the sun paint the lake gold, feeling safer and more content than I had in years. Whatever complications came next, and they would come, because nothing good came easy, we'd face them together. For now, this moment was enough. The complications arrived faster than expected. I was at work 3 days after that night at Dominic's place, reviewing quarterly reports, when Carla appeared in my doorway looking worried. Lily, there are men here to see you. They said it's about your brother. Ice flooded my veins. I was up and moving before she finished speaking, heart hammering against my ribs. In the reception area, 2 police officers waited. Not the friendly neighborhood beat cops. Detectives, I realized, noting their plainclothes and badges. Miss Chen? The older one asked. I'm Detective Morrison. This is Detective Reyes. We need to ask you some questions about Ethan Chen. What happened? Is he okay? Panic made my voice sharp. He's fine. He's at the station now, waiting for you. Morrison's expression was carefully neutral. But he was involved in an altercation at school. Another student was seriously hurt. The world tilted. What? No, that's not possible. Ethan wouldn't. The other boy is claiming your brother attacked him without provocation. Several witnesses corroborate. We need you to come down to the station. Morrison paused. And Miss Chen, you might want to bring a lawyer. Everything I'd built over the past month, the stability, the safety, the hope, crumbled like sand. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and institutional despair. Detective Morrison led me through a maze of desks and ringing phones to a small room, where Ethan sat hunched in a plastic chair, his right hand wrapped in gauze, his face pale. Lily, he stood the moment he saw me, and I noticed he was favoring his left side. I swear I didn't start it. Don't say anything else. I pulled him into a hug, checking for injuries even as my mind raced. Are you hurt? Did they call a doctor? I'm fine. The nurse at school checked me out. His voice cracked, 16-year-old bravado crumbling. But Tyler, the other kid, he's in the hospital. They're saying I put him there. What happened? I kept my voice low, aware of Detective Morrison watching from the doorway. He was talking about you, saying horrible things about you and Mr. Russo, about how you were Ethan's face flushed. I told him to stop. He didn't. He shoved me first, Lily. I swear. I just defended myself. My stomach twisted. This was about me. About Dominic. About the target Marco had warned me we'd become by association. Miss Chen, we need to conduct a formal interview, Morrison said. Your brother is a minor, so you can be present. But I strongly advise you to have legal representation. I'm calling my lawyer now. I pulled out my phone, but my hands were shaking too badly to unlock it. Who was I kidding? I didn't have a lawyer. I'd never needed one before, but I knew someone who did. I dialed Dominic's number. He answered on the first ring. Lily, what's wrong? Ethan's at the police. There was a fight at school. They're saying he seriously hurt another student. The words tumbled out in a rush. They want to interview him, but said we should have a lawyer, and I don't know what to say. Which station? District 12. Dominic, I don't know what happened. He said the other kid was saying things about us, about you and me. And breathe, Lily. I'm 10 minutes away. Don't let them interview him until I get there. Not a single word. Do you understand? Yes. Good. I'm bringing my attorney. Everything's going to be fine. His voice was steady, grounding. I've got you. Both of you. He hung up, and I turned to Morrison. Our lawyer is on the way. Ethan won't be answering any questions until he arrives. Morrison's expression tightened. Miss Chen, cooperation would go a long way here. Your brother isn't under arrest, but depending on what we learn, then you can wait 20 minutes. I sat beside Ethan, taking his uninjured hand. We're not saying anything without legal representation. The detective left, and Ethan sagged against me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to everything you've been building with Mr. Teen. Russo, I probably just destroyed it. If he thinks I'm trouble, stop. I squeezed his hand. Dominic isn't going to abandon us because you defended yourself. And you did defend yourself, right? You didn't throw the first punch? Tyler shoved me into the lockers. Hard. Then he came at me again and Ethan's voice dropped. I hit him. Multiple times. I was so angry, Lily. Everything he was saying about you. Like you were some kind of... I couldn't let him talk about you that way. Tears stung my eyes. My baby brother defending my honor, possibly throwing away his future in the process. Oh, I'm not sorry I hit him. I'm just sorry it's causing problems. Before I could respond, the door opened. Dominic entered first, still in his suit from whatever meeting I'd pulled him from. His expression carefully, controlled. Behind him came a woman in her 50s, silver hair pulled into a severe bun, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my first car. Lily, Ethan. Dominic's hand found my shoulder, warm and reassuring. This is Victoria Castellano, my attorney. She's going to handle this. Castellano. Same last name. She's family? Cousin. Best defense attorney in Illinois. Dominic crouched in front of Ethan, meeting him at eye level. Tell me what happened. Everything. From the beginning. Ethan recounted the story. Tyler Morrison, no relation to the detective, thankfully, had been spreading rumors about me and Dominic for weeks. Today in the hallway, he'd gotten graphic, describing what he assumed I was doing to earn Dominic's protection in terms that made my skin crawl just hearing them secondhand. I told him to shut up. He laughed and shoved me into the lockers. Ethan's jaw tightened. Said I should be grateful you were willing to whore yourself out to keep us. That's when I hit him. How many times? Victoria asked. Pen poised over her notepad. I don't know. 5? 6? I was seeing red. The school security guard pulled me off. Ethan looked at his bandaged hand. I think I broke something. In my hand, I mean. Not in him. Though I might have broken something in him, too. Tyler Morrison has a concussion, broken nose, and fractured orbital bone, Victoria said matter-of-factly. He'll recover, but his parents are threatening charges. Aggravated battery, possibly assault with intent. He was defending his sister's honor, Dominic said. his voice quiet but carrying an edge that made everyone in the room tense. After weeks of harassment and defamation, that's not assault, that's justified response. The law may not see it that way. Victoria's tone was gentle but realistic. Especially if the Morrison family has resources. Do they? Tyler's father is a corporate attorney. Mother's a judge. My voice sounded hollow. They have resources. Of course they do. Dominic stood, pulling out his phone. Make a note, Victoria. I want every interaction between Ethan and Tyler documented. Witnesses to the harassment, text messages, social media posts. Everything that establishes pattern of behavior. Already on it, Victoria confirmed. I've got my investigator pulling records now. A knock at the door interrupted. Detective Morrison entered, his expression carefully neutral when he saw the room now full of people. Mr. Rousseau, I should have known you'd be involved. Ethan is family. Dominic's tone was pleasant, but his eyes were cold. Family protects family. I'm sure you understand. Something passed between them. Unspoken communication that made Morrison's jaw tighten. Your attorney can be present for the interview, but I need to speak with the boy. My client will answer questions pertinent to the incident, Victoria said smoothly, but I'll be advising him throughout. And detective, I trust this. Interview will be conducted appropriately, given the circumstances of provocation. The interview took an hour. Ethan stuck to the facts, didn't embellish, didn't minimize. Victoria interjected when questions became leading or inappropriate. Through it all, Dominic stood behind me, his presence a solid wall of support. Finally, Morrison closed his notebook. We'll be investigating further. Don't leave town, Ethan. And I'd suggest anger management counseling. Judges look favorably on proactive rehabilitation. My client was defending himself against a documented bully, Victoria countered, but will certainly consider all options that might expedite resolution. After Morrison left, Victoria turned to us. The Morrison family will likely push for charges. We need to be prepared for that. But we've got a strong self-defense case, especially with the harassment documentation. Make it go away, Dominic said quietly. Whatever it costs. Dominic, no. I stood facing him. We can't just throw money at this. If Ethan did something wrong, he defended you. That's not wrong. Dominic's hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. That's love. That's loyalty. And I'll be damned if he's punished for it. The system can be influenced, negotiated with, made to see reason. His thumb traced my cheekbone. Trust me, Lily. Let me handle this. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, that justice shouldn't be something you could buy your way out of. But looking at Ethan's pale face, his bandaged hand, the fear in his eyes, I couldn't let him pay for defending me. Okay, I whispered. Fix it. Victoria worked her magic over the next week. The harassment evidence was overwhelming: texts, social media posts, witness statements from other students. Tyler Morrison had been systematically tormenting Ethan for weeks, ever since word spread about my relationship with Dominic. More importantly, Victoria discovered Tyler had a history, 2 previous incidents of bullying that his parents had swept under the rug with donations to the school. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. Ethan wasn't the aggressor, he was the victim who'd finally snapped. The DA is willing to drop all charges if Ethan completes anger management counseling and community service, Victoria announced at a meeting in Dominic's office. Tyler's family wanted restitution, but given their son's history, they're accepting a settlement to avoid their own liability. Relief nearly knocked me over. So it's done? Ethan's clear? Not quite. He's still suspended from school for 2 weeks per district policy. But criminally? Yes, it's done. Victoria smiled, rare warmth in her expression. Your brother's a good kid, Lily. He just needs to learn better ways to handle his anger. After she left, I turned to Dominic. How much did this cost you? Does it matter? Yes. I need to know what I owe you. Dominic's expression hardened. You owe me nothing. This is what I do for family. What I'll always do. We're not. I stopped. What were we? I'd been in his bed. He'd met my brother. He'd just saved Ethan from potential felony charges. We've known each other a month. And in that month, you've become the most important person in my life. He crossed to me. hands gentle on my shoulders. You and Ethan both. When you called from that police station, terrified and alone, something in me broke. The thought that you might not trust me to fix it, might not call me. Of course I called you. You're the only person I trust with something this important. Exactly. His forehead touched mine. We're family, Lily. Maybe not by blood, maybe not by law yet, but by choice. By the fact that I'd burn down this entire city before I let anything happen to you or your brother, that's family. The certainty in his voice made my throat tight. I love you. I don't know when it happened, but I love you, Dominic. And that terrifies me. Why? Because people I love leave, die, disappear. And you're dangerous. Your world is dangerous. What if something happens to you? What if one day I get a call that I couldn't finish the thought? Then you'll grieve. And Marco and Victoria and everyone loyal to me will make sure you and Ethan are taken care of. Forever. Dominic cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. But I'm not planning on going anywhere. I'm careful, Lily. Cautious. I don't take unnecessary risks. Except with your heart, apparently. He smiled. Except with that. But you're worth the risk. You've always been worth it. I love you, I said again, needing him to hear it. To know. I love you too. Have since that first night when you stood in my office, bruised and exhausted, and still refusing to back down. You're remarkable, Lily Chen. And you're mine. Possessive. Completely. He kissed me, deep and claiming. Move in with me, you and Ethan both. Stop pretending that apartment is home, when you spend most nights at my place anyway. That's a big step. We've already taken all the big steps. This is just making it official. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer. I want you in my space, in my bed, in my life, permanently. Say yes. I should have thought about it longer, should have considered the implications, talked to Ethan, been more cautious. But I was tired of being cautious, tired of holding back. Yes. We moved in over Thanksgiving weekend. Dominic's penthouse was transformed to accommodate us. Ethan got his own room with a view of the lake, his own bathroom, a desk for homework. I merged my space with Dominic's, my clothes in his closet, my photos on his walls. It felt like coming home. This is insane, Ethan said, staring out at the city from his new bedroom. 3 months ago we were worried about rent. Now I'm living in a penthouse with a crime boss. Life is weird. Do you regret it? I asked, joining him at the window. Are you kidding? This is the coolest thing ever. He grinned, then sobered. But seriously, Lily, are you happy? Like, actually happy? Not just grateful or relieved, but happy. I thought about it. About waking up in Dominic's arms every morning. About having time to finish my degree properly. About Ethan thriving, making new friends, back on the basketball team with no criminal record to haunt him. About feeling safe for the first time in years. Yeah, I said softly. I'm actually happy. Good. You deserve it. Ethan hugged me, rare display of affection. And for what it's worth, I think he's good for you. Different from what I expected, but good. That night, after Ethan was asleep and the city glittered below us, Dominic pulled me onto the terrace. It was freezing. December wind off the lake cutting through my sweater, but he wrapped me in his coat and held me close. I have something for you, he said quietly. From his pocket he produced a small box. My heart stopped. Dominic, it's not what you think. Not yet. He opened the box to reveal a key on a simple chain. Key to my office, to this apartment, to every space that's mine, because it's yours now too. Complete access, Lily. No locked doors between us. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. Trust, complete and absolute. Thank you. There's something else. He took a breath, uncharacteristically nervous. I want to adopt Ethan, make it legal, make him family in the eyes of the law, not just in my heart. If you're both comfortable with that. Tears spilled down my cheeks. You'd do that? I'd do anything for you. Both of you. His thumb brushed away my tears. But only if it's what you want. What he wants. I'm not trying to replace your parents or overstep. I just want him protected. Really protected. Legally. Financially. If something happens to you, stop. I pressed my fingers to his lips. Nothing's happening to me. We're all going to live long, boring lives. Together. Promise? Promise. I kissed him, soft and sweet. And yes, talk to Ethan, but I think he'll say yes too. We'd be honored to officially be your family. Dominic's smile transformed his face. You already are. This just makes it official. We stood there in the freezing wind, wrapped in each other, watching the city we'd both learned to call home. Somewhere below, people were fighting their own battles, struggling to survive, wondering if things would ever get better. I knew that feeling. Had lived it for years. But now, in Dominic's arms, with my brother safe inside, and a future stretching before us that held promise, instead of just pain, I also knew hope. 6 months later, I stood in that same spot on the terrace, but everything had changed. The winter cold had given way to Chicago spring, the lake thawing, trees budding with new life. Inside, Ethan was packing for basketball camp, something he could actually attend now without me worrying about the cost. My degree sat framed on the wall, finally, completed after years of struggle, and on my left hand, a ring sparkled in the sunlight. Not the emerald from our fake engagement. Something new. A diamond surrounded by sapphires that Dominic had presented 3 weeks ago, on bended knee, asking me to make it permanent, to choose him every day for the rest of our lives. I'd said yes before he finished asking. There you are. Dominic emerged onto the terrace, 2 cups of coffee in hand. He'd learned how I took mine too much cream, 1 sugar, and never forgot. Ethan wants to know if Marco can drive him to camp or if you're insisting on the full embarrassing mom goodbye. I'm not his mom. You're close enough. And you're absolutely doing the embarrassing goodbye. I've already warned Marco to bring tissues. He handed me my coffee, then wrapped an arm around my waist. How are you feeling? About the wedding? About everything? Terrified. Happy. Like I'm standing on the edge of something huge, and I can't quite believe it's. I leaned into him, breathing in his familiar scent. 6 months ago, I was serving drinks and taking the bus home at 2 a.m. Now I'm planning a wedding to you, living in this penthouse, running 3 of your businesses. It's surreal. Regrets? Not one. I turned in his arms, looking up at the face I'd memorized. Every line, every scar, every expression. You saved me, Dominic. You in this crazy life. You saved both of us. No. His hands framed my face with the tenderness that never failed to undo me. You saved yourself. You were already fighting, already surviving. I just gave you the tools to thrive instead. We saved each other then. That sounds about right. He kissed me, soft and sweet, a promise of forever wrapped in a moment. Ready to start the rest of our lives, future Mrs. Russo? The name sent warmth flooding through me. Mrs. Russo. Mrs. Dominic Russo. A name that would make people nervous, make them whisper, make them wonder what I'd done to Alp, capture the attention of Chicago's most dangerous man. But I knew the truth. I hadn't captured anything. I'd been seen, truly seen, by someone who recognized strength and exhaustion, courage and fear, love and loyalty. And that seeing had transformed everything. The bar had gone silent that night because someone dared to touch what was his. But what Dominic had claimed wasn't possession. It was partnership, protection, love that came with respect and autonomy and the space to grow. I wasn't just his. He was mine too. We belonged to each other, chose each other, every single day, and that choice made all the difference. Ready, I said, kissing him again. Let's do this. From inside, Ethan's voice called out, Are you guys being gross and romantic again? Because I'm trying to eat breakfast and I don't need the visual. We laughed, breaking apart to head inside. To our family, our life, our future. It wasn't the life I'd imagined for myself 2 years ago. It was better. Messier. More. Complicated. Built on a foundation of moral gray areas and dangerous choices. But it was ours. And it was real. And that was everything. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.